Hello YouTube, the product I'm reviewing for you today is quite simple but super effective and cheap, and it's going to be a towel. Now, as far as the type of towels that you're going to be able to use in a training environment, it's going to have to be something that's not too long. You don't want it to be too cumbersome. You don't want it to be too soft either. It needs to be a little bit rough, because if you want something that you can grip, which is going to be the use that you're going to make of that towel, you need something that is going to actually offer some friction with your hand. You don't want something that's going to be slippery. As far as the selection process goes, I advise you to not try and be too specific either. Just go on any website and try and find some white towels that respect the dimensions of something that you could potentially use for your hands, for example. So it could be a dish towel. As far as the quality goes, you don't really have to worry too much about that unless you really buy very poorly crafted material. It's not going to give. And the reason why that might be important is because you're going to have to strap weight to the towel. But you'll see that the exercise selection available to you with that product is going to be in the lower weight selection range. You're never going to strap 500 pounds to the towel for multiple reasons. The first one being that the towel is not able to actually manage all of that weight because of its length, and that's sort of the point. You don't need something so long that you eventually end up wrapping it around your hand. It defeats the purpose. It needs to be something that you can grab for the exercise. And the same logic goes with that, where since you're not going to be strapping so much weight on it, it doesn't need to be extra resistant, and most towels are going to be able to handle upwards of 200 pounds easy. And that's way above what you're going to be using. So the range of exercises you're going to be able to perform with this are going to be grip exercises, curls, and some sorts of rows of sorts. I'm not going to tell you to do towel rows. That being said, you could actually use these to train your upper back. I'm mostly going to talk about the exercises that I personally perform with the towel and the use that I make of them. So I first was introduced to the towel by an exercise that I started to perform with chains. You see, I wanted to have a way to quickly arrange a bunch of plates and grab them with a minimal range of motion from the floor to test my grip, basically. And I started that with elastic bands. I quickly realized that I was damaging my bands, so I moved on to chains. The chains were fine with the plates and by themselves, but they were damaging my hands. So I had to find an alternative, and eventually I tried a towel, and I actually really liked the feeling. And the way you do it is you take the towel, you put it in the hole of the plate, and then it hangs like this, and you grab what's here, okay? And you wrap your hand around it, you squeeze, and that trains your grip. From what I just said, you're also going to realize that certain types of plates are much more adequate to the use of the towel. The ones that just have a hole in the middle are going to create an issue. Why? Because as you put the towel in it, the distance that the towel has to travel to be equidistant on both sides for you to grab it is going to be too much. So you would need a supra long towel if you were to do that. So as far as the specs go, if that's the only type of plates that you have available, you're going to have to go for a beach towel. You're going to have to need a big towel. If you have access to what is called shooter plates, where the plate looks like the barrel of a gun, in that case you don't need to. Why? Because the holes are much closer to the end of the plate. So you can really stack a lot of plates there with a relatively small towel. So that's the first one. I call it personally chain grip. You can also use it for curls, and I have a tutorial about that on the channel, and I call them towel curls because it's an easy name. And what's going to work well with the towel is you'll find that just like rings, that's the type of implement that is going to allow you to manipulate your wrist angle a ton without discomfort, because you're grabbing onto something that's soft. So when you move your wrist, the material moves with it, and the weight that hangs rotates. So it's a good way to attack certain muscles with a certain angle that is not really possible with a dumbbell, for example. So for that type of exercise, I suggest you use a towel as well. And then there's going to be what most people use towels for, and it's going to be pull-ups. and I personally really like tower pull-ups. They're an interesting test of grip strength because you're going to find that it's not necessarily that it's tough to grab onto the tower. It's tougher than grabbing onto a bar, for sure. But it's not as tough as, for example, grabbing onto something like a fat grip. It's different. With the fat grip, it feels like you're gonna slip and you need to squeeze the grip at all points. With the tower, it's different. It just hurts because it takes a lot of finger strength. Because your fingers, unlike a fat grip, your fingers sort of, I want to say, melt. They really dig in a weird way in the towel. You end up really having to wrap the tiny nudges of the fingers in the towel. And that to me is going to train a lot of finger strength along with the strength of the forearms. So that might be a plus for people like rock climbers or people who just want stronger fingers. You will also find that for the same logic, you will be able to manipulate your wrist angle a lot, which freezes the rest of the arm up. So the elbow angle, the shoulder angle, all of these are going to be much more flexible, you will find, when you do tower pull-ups. And you might notice a vast increase in the range of motion, especially in your ability to retract the scapula all the way down. I don't know what it is about the tower pull-ups. I think it's the wrist mobility thing, but you can really go super, super low and keep all of the tension on the upper back. And that, for people who might be struggling with full range of motion for hypertrophy of the lats, is something you might need to give a shot, because you will find that you're not that weak on tower pull-ups. You're weaker, but you're not going to lose half your reps. So it's a good way for you to start there and then progress the range of motion and potentially carry it over to your regular pull-ups. And as far as the accessories and the variations you can do with these, you can do tower dead hangs, you can do tower chin-ups, you can do tower neutral ups. It all works. And it's just $5. And even $5 would be expensive for a tower. So for me, if you have a home gym, or if you just go to a commercial gym, that's an accessory that you absolutely need. It takes zero space in your gym bag. It costs no money, and it's going to open up a whole area of training that you've never considered. And that, to me, is important, to always try and find that new variation that might hit the muscle and be more comfortable for you and offer a different challenge. So that's that for this review of the towel. Rogue isn't selling towels yet. They might eventually copyright the concept, but for now you can just buy them cheaply off of any website or just use one that's hanging around the house. As far as keeping them clean, I personally don't wash mine because I don't care. But be careful if you wash them, because it tends to make them smoother and they're not going to have as good as a grip. And I find that the more you use these, the more grippy they become, so that's a good thing. I'm going to leave you with that. Any questions about the use of towels for training, let me know in the comments. Have a good day.